Hey, today we're going to look at a website called photopea.com. That's PHOTOPEA.com. And what this is a great alternative to Adobe Photoshop in the event you cannot download it on your computer. If you go to this website, it is very similar to Photoshop, and it lets you do most of the functions that we would do in Photoshop, but you do it online on this program. So let's take a look at a few of the things we can do with this. First thing I'm going to do is open a photograph. I'm going to go to File, or actually let's create a new sheet of paper because we do that so much in our class. Let's go to File, New, and that's going to give you a whole bunch of templates that you could use, and they're preloaded with all these effects here. We just want to go to a blank white sheet for this purpose here, so I'm setting it to print just like we do in Photoshop. And I'm selecting the letter size sheet, we always do, and I'm going to hit create. When I click on the create button, it gives us a blank sheet of paper. So let's look at adding a picture to that sheet of paper. So we can go to File, and we can, how about we open and place? So this means it's going to open the picture and it's going to place it on our sheet. So we're going to go to open and place, and let's take this picture of Kanye. We'll go to open, and it's going to load it for us on our sheet of paper, just like Photoshop. And we can move it around to where we want it. And let's go to our move tool here, because you want to make sure, just like Photoshop, you have your transform controls clicked so you can make your picture larger or smaller and make those adjustments. All right, when you make those adjustments, you just hit enter. So if you notice your toolbox down here, it looks very similar to Photoshop. It's got a layers panel here, which is similar to Photoshop, and it's got adjustment layers down here, which look just like Photoshop, and it's got image adjustments here, and it's got filters similar to Photoshop. The real difference, I notice our filter gallery is a bit limited on this, but we don't use that a whole lot, so we can get through with that. Let's go down and look at some of these here. So we got our move tool. We have a crop tool here. We have a paintbrush tool here, and again, if you right click, you can get all your different options here. And say if I click on the brush tool, it's got the size here, or you can always right click and change the size, and you can change the type of brush too, just like we do in Photoshop. Let's make that a larger brush. Okay, we have to rasterize it, no big deal. We just click yes, and then we can start painting with our brush. We got the green color selected. If you wanted to change it, just like Photoshop, you can go and select any color you want. But I'm going to undo this, so I'm going to do Control Alt Z, and every time I tap Z, it undoes the steps we just did. Let's take a look if we wanted to remove the background from this picture. Now, this is a little bit different than Photoshop, but it works pretty well. So in Photoshop, a lot of times we want to go and erase the background with a magic eraser. Now this has got a regular eraser tool here. So if I click on that, I'm going to right click and make it larger. Choose a soft one actually. And if we do that, it just starts erasing just like we would in Photoshop. However, since it doesn't have magic eraser, I would probably look at your background eraser tool. And what this does, it tries to recognize the difference between your main picture and the background. So if we go around his head here, see, it still doesn't erase his head, but it does a pretty good job of erasing the background. So that might be something I would use. One other option I'll show you, Control Alt Z to undo that, is our selection tool, which is right here, quick selection tool. And if we go to quick selection, let's Control plus to zoom in. And this one doesn't work as well as I like the one in Photoshop, but let's see if we try to make our selection. Whoops, see, it selected all of Kanye here. Let's see, whoops, so it selected everything there. Now the thing that works pretty good about this, you can go to your minus and that means it subtracts from the selection list. So let's go to minus, and let's select Kanye out of it so it takes him out of it. Now if we just use the delete key on our keyboard, upper right hand corner, with everything selected but Kanye, it took our background out pretty good. Now if we do Control D, deselects, and we got that pretty good. See, it left a few remnants here, but we could always go back with a regular eraser and take that out. Background, say if you wanted to paint the background in Photoshop a different color, let's unlock it. Let's go to, and you see it's saying this image analysis up here. Because my internet connection's a little slow, and this works all online, so sometimes you'll get a little bit of a lag. My paint bucket tool, if I right click, is in the same spot where our gradient tool is, just in Photoshop. So maybe if I just want to paint it, got that red select, and we click on that area, it painted everything red for us. Let me Control-Alt-D that, and let's see how the gradient tool works. Gradient, click our gradient line, and you noticed I had it set for black and white up here. So that worked exactly like Photoshop does. Also, the text tool worked exactly like Photoshop, so I don't really need to show you that. And you can fool around with this program, maybe even open up an old project if you download it from OneDrive. This will open up Photoshop files. And you can go around to this and just experiment with it a little bit. If we go to Image Adjustments, see what those hue and saturation, I got it set on Kanye's picture. And you can just experiment with it, see what they do. Okay, so this is a really good alternative to Photoshop. All right, so how do we save something? So say that's our finished project. We go to File. If we save it as a PSD, it will save all our layers, and we can open that back up again and edit them. If we're done with it, we want to turn it in, we go here to Export, and we select JPEG. Make it very easy. And all these settings, we don't really need to mess with it too much at this point. I'm just going to click Save. And I believe where this saves it is in our Downloads folder. So we would need to go in that folder to find our project. Or we could go here, go Show in Folder. And you're going to see its new project right here. And if I go and minimize everything, and I just pull it out to our desktop, then it will put it there, and we can rename it and then turn it in that way. So that's a good overview to this program, Photopea, and there's a lot of tutorials and help online for it if you get stuck. Again, like I always say, just go to Google, type in what you're looking for, and chances are someone has figured that out. You can always email me too, and I can walk you through any problems you might have with it.